We are halfway done with the 2020s decade, meaning we have had 5 Oscar ceremonies each with 20 acting nominations, 5 each for the 4 categories. If you've done the math, that leads to a whopping 100 nominations as of now. In this sequel to my 2020's Best Picture ranking, I'll be ranking every single acting Oscar nomination of the 2020s decade so far, from the very worst to the very best. I'll be ranking these performances by the quality of the performance, the emotions they bring, how memorable they are, and their overall impact in the film, not the quality of the film overall. I will not be talking much if they should have won or not, or category frog, just about the performances themselves, although I will mention it when it is necessary. The bottom 20 performances I mostly don't enjoy and are pretty weak, so I'll be giving my personal replacements for them. The middle 60 are good to great performances, while the top 20 are some of the best performances of the decade so far. This is my personal ranking, so it'll definitely be a little different than yours, so don't get too upset over any placement. 100 performances, 97 actors, 80 losers, 60 films, 20 winners, but there will only be one actor left standing by the end of this video. This video is going to be pretty long, around the length of one of these movies, so sit back, grab a drink and a snack, and let's dive right into this video. Number 100, J.K. Simmons being the Ricardos. I genuinely cannot comprehend how this performance got a nomination. I love J.K. Simmons. His previous Best Supporting Actor nomination win for Whiplash is one of the best performances of the 2010s, so it baffles me how this got a nomination. Being the Ricardos is a pretty bad film, with Simmons giving probably his most forgettable performance as actor William Fraley from the show I Love Lucy, but Simmons doesn't have a single memorable scene, memorable moment, and never feels like playing Fraley. The two hardly even look alike. I would much rather see Simmons get an Oscar nomination for Juno, Burn After Reading, or any of the Spider Man films, but this performance is so weak and forgettable that I genuinely hate this performance. I love J.K. Simmons in basically everything he's in, but even his performance as the yellow M&M is better than this. I would give this nomination to Andrew Garfield for his transformative performance in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. An amazing year he had, and despite this film's problems, completely dives into the role as televangelist Jim Baker. Number 99, America Ferrera, Barbie. Ferrera does nothing special as Mattel worker Gloria. She's fine in this role, something anyone could have done, but the only reason she got this nomination was for the motivational speech she gives to the Barbies at the end. Without this speech, I am 100% sure she wouldn't have received this nomination. And since Barbie was such a massive success commercially and critically, that really helped things as well. No offense to America Ferrera, but I feel like anyone could have done this role. A decent comedic performance. I'm not a big fan of Saltburn and think it's quite pretentious, but Rosamund Pike does a phenomenal job in that film and would be so much better than this generic role. Number 98, Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy. Yeah, expect a lot of performances from 2020 and 2021 near the bottom of this list. And easily her worst nomination throughout the decades and the worst film I've watched for this list. Close plays future Vice President J.D. Vance's grandmother when he was a child. Hillbilly Elegy is a terrible film with an atrocious screenplay, giving Close very little material to work with. Although she looks different than usual, her character is bland and boring, and quite annoying at times like most characters in this film. Close isn't the worst thing about the film, or even the worst performance in the film. But are we really giving Oscar nominations for playing corrupt politicians' grandmas? Really? Ellen Burstyn would have been a much better nomination for Pieces of a Woman, another elderly actress who delivers a much better performance and a much better film. Number 97, Ciarán Hinds, Belfast. I've mentioned previously my hatred for Belfast, but the acting nominations are probably the worst nominations for this overrated film. Hinds plays the protagonist's grandfather, and once again is another boring performance. Hinds sleepwalks and is hardly in this already short film, with his only interesting scene being his final one before he dies. If 2021 weren't such a weak year and if Belfast weren't as acclaimed, Hinds absolutely wouldn't have gotten that nomination. Woody Norman's phenomenal child performance in Come On would have been a much more interesting and cool nomination to see. Number 96, Javier Bardem being the Ricardos. Another career worst nomination, Javier Bardem never truly feels like Desi Arnaz, and just feels like Bardem playing himself. Like I mentioned with Simmons, being the Ricardo's poor quality doesn't help out much with the performances as well. Bardem not having any memorable scenes for the most part, even though he's in more of the film than the previous nominations. But he's so boring and doesn't compete whatsoever with his nominations for No Country for Old Men and Beautiful. In my favorite film of the year, Hidetoshi Nishijama delivers an emotionally devastating performance in Drive My Car and absolutely washes Bardem's poor performance. Number 95, Judi Dench, Belfast. Dench and Hines throughout the film are equally as boring and unmemorable, but Dench having two more scenes than Hines give her the slight edge. Judi Dench has had so many amazing Oscar nominations throughout the decades, even her weaker ones, but Belfast doesn't give her any justice. Instead, she just plays a boring grandma who got the nomination because of the film's success and her name alone. This is going to be a hot take, but Dakota Johnson delivered a much better performance in The Lost Daughter, which I will mention soon, and is much more memorable than whatever Dench did here. Number 94, Monica Barbaro, A Complete Unknown. The reason Best Supporting Actress is my least favorite acting category is due to the fact that many nominations and wins are just the wife or girlfriend of the lead character, and that's exactly what Barbaro is in A Complete Unknown. Barbaro is fine in the film, but never dives into the icon that is Joan Baez, which, if an actor plays a real person and doesn't feel like them, that really brings down not only the performance, but the film as well. A Complete Unknown is fine, but I don't know how Barbaro got in, but Elle Fanning didn't, as she gives the better and more memorable performance of the film. Hopefully, she gets a nomination this year for sentimental value. Number 93, Carla Sofia Gascon, Amelia Perez. Amelia Perez is a bad film, but not as bad as many say. Gascon is fine in this film, but it's hard to think highly of her performance considering all of the disgusting things she said in past years, especially when it comes to film nominees that will appear on this list. She doesn't do anything special, and got the nomination since Netflix had very few films to work with last year. She gets the job done in the film, but is whatever and could have been replaced easily. The less I say about her, the better, but Zendaya would have been a much better nomination for the infamously snubbed film Challengers. Number 92, Gary Oldman, Mank. Mank is a very well done film, but the screenplay really brings it down. Most, like me, aren't fans whatsoever for Oldman's win for Darkest Hour, but he's somehow even worse as Herman J. Mankiewicz, just bumbling around and drinking the whole film and never showing the screenwriter's talents whatsoever. Like many previous nominees, he's boring, bland, and only got in because of the poor year it was released in, and got decent reviews. And my favorite movie of the whole decade so far, Mads Mikkelsen absolutely should have gotten in for another round. An amazing and emotional performance from one of the best and most consistent actors working right now, who should have an Oscar nomination by now as well. Number 91, Ana de Armas, Blonde. Blonde's a bad movie, but Ana de Armas tries her best to bring her best performance possible. The film disrespects Marilyn Monroe's legacy a lot and makes her look like a very weak person who just cries and screams a lot and is overly exaggerated. But De Armas does a decent job of playing the legendary actress. She has some good moments throughout this lengthy film, but doesn't ever feel like Marilyn Monroe, unfortunately. If this would have been a better film, De Armas would definitely have been higher up on this list. But as this is, it's just very disappointing. In one of the best films of the decade, Renee Reinsve is spectacular and the worst person in the world, and brings you to tears at times. Hopefully, like Elle Fanning, she receives her first nomination for sentimental value this year as well. Number 90, Jamie Lee Curtis, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Our first winner on this list, Jamie Lee Curtis delivers her most unique performance as IRS agent Deidre, but I wouldn't even say this is her best role in her career. Curtis does a perfect job at what she is given, playing a cold, miserable IRS agent alongside the other variants of herself. But that's it. Curtis doesn't even come close to being the best supporting performance in the film. So to see her win this very talented category in 2022 was a shock to see. Curtis was good, but not Oscar worthy, and just swept because of the success of the film and her being an acclaimed actress for decades. Dolly D. Leon should have gotten the nomination instead for her brilliant and memorable role in Triangle of Sadness. Number 89, Sacha Baron Cohen, The Trial of the Chicago 7. I like The Trial of the Chicago 7 more than most, but this massive ensemble cast really gives the actors its chance to shine. That's the case with Sacha Baron Cohen, playing one of the seven, A.B. Hoffman. Cohen is fine and has a couple memorable scenes, quite humorous at times, but what makes him stand out against the rest of the cast? Oh yeah, Borat's subsequent movie film also came out that year, which definitely helped him get this nomination to reward his work in both films. Cohen is better and more memorable in one of these two films, but that performance wasn't nominated. Instead, we got this. Another child performance, I would nominate Alan Kim for his truly spectacular performance in Minari and his breakthrough debut performance. Number 88, Coleman Domingo, Rustin. Coleman Domingo is the first actor to truly feel like the character they're playing, this one being civil rights activist Bayard Rustin. Domingo truly feels like Rustin throughout, but the bad script of the film never gives Domingo a truly special moment to shine and feels very basic and by the books, not letting the viewer truly understand who Rustin is as it breezes through key points in order to get to important events of the film. Domingo is a truly talented actor who has the potential to elevate films if given the opportunity, but Rustin, the film, never allows that to happen, unfortunately, which really hurts the performance. Sorry. I would quite easily exchange him for Koji Yakusho's calm and down-to-earth performance in Wim Wenders' masterpiece Perfect Days, one of the best Japanese actors of all time that is rarely honored outside his home country. Number 87, Will Smith, King Richard. Our next winner, Will Smith does a fine job of portraying Richard Williams. He cares for his daughters and wants the best for them in the future, but behind the makeup and prosthetics, you can still feel that as Will Smith in the end. Quite a dull performance and one that is circling around the middle of Smith's filmography. It baffles me he still won this. And what he did to Chris Rock mere minutes before he won such a prestigious award will haunt him to his very last days and stain his legacy and reputation. Smith has been better in the past and is acceptable, but like Curtis, absolutely did not deserve to win. Stephen Graham should have received a nomination for his brilliant one-take performance in Boiling Point. Portraying so many different and unique emotions throughout one continuous shot is very impressive to pull off. Number 86, Isabella Rossellini, Conclave. And perhaps the shortest nomination on this list, Rossellini mainly appears in the background throughout Conclave. Her one scene where she lambasts John Lithgow's character is one of the best scenes in the whole film. But to get a nomination for just one scene, I don't agree with that. I'm not the biggest fan of supporting roles that are nominated with very low screen time, as they take away from arguably better ones that have a lot more to do. I'm afraid that's what Rossellini's felt like getting nominated. I'm happy she received her first nomination after a long career of being snubbed, but I still don't feel like she should have received the nomination for not being even in 10 minutes of the film. I would have swapped her out for Margaret Qualley's tremendous and horrific performance in The Substance, a key aspect of the film that would have been completely different and worse for it without her. Number 85, Bradley Cooper, Maestro. Another Oscar-baity performance and film from Bradley Cooper. I can quite easily say this is one of his weaker nominated performances, but not the worst. Throughout the entire film, you see Cooper throughout the different stages and years of Leonard Bernstein's life, and kind of understand who he is. Cooper's direction and screenplay break down this biopic a lot, and falls into a lot of the same tropes that other music biopics do, making Maestro quite a bland and forgettable experience, unfortunately. Cooper once again got another Oscar nomination, but no one in sight. I would have swapped Cooper for Nicolas Cage in one of my favorite films and an underrated gem, Dream Scenario. Easily Cage's best role since Adaptation, one of his most transformative and complex characters as well. Number 84, Amanda Seyfried, Mank. Seyfried is fun in Mank as Marion Davis, and actually seems awake for the most part, unlike her co-star. Seyfried does a good job of showing who this legendary actress was, but is in very little of Mank overall, only in around 4 or 5 scenes. Because of that, you hardly get to know her character. And like I mentioned with Oldman previously, the screenplay doesn't develop her character much whatsoever, and Seyfried leaves the film as quickly as she came in. She did a good job with what she was given, but the overall script unfortunately brings down her performance by a lot. I would swap out Seyfried for another Minari cast member, this one being Han Yeri as a supportive wife struggling to fit into the strange new world she and her family just moved into. Number 83, Nicole Kidman, Being the Ricardos. The last nominated member of the Being the Ricardos crew, Kidman easily delivers the best performance as the iconic Lucille Ball. Unlike Bardem and Simmons, Kidman actually feels like the I Love Lucy star and doesn't feel like Nicole Kidman at all, instead perfectly feeling like this American icon. But like I've mentioned before, the script gives the actors nothing to work with, and although she has more to do in the film, Kidman doesn't live up to her full potential. Along with that, also easily her worst nominated performance. Although a hot take, I think Amelia Jones should have gotten in for Coda. This sweet film full of heart is carried by Jones, who struggles with choosing her deaf family or her music career, with fantastic and emotional scenes from the young actress. Number 82. Judd Hirsch, The Fablemans. Another short performance. With this nomination, Hirsch set a record for the longest gap in between acting Oscar nominations, with 42 years between this and his previous Best Supporting Actor nomination for Ordinary People. Anyways, Hirsch is very memorable in his brief time as Sammy's uncle, encouraging the young boy to pursue his dreams as a filmmaker and to never give up. Hirsch is good in this role and memorable, but not nearly as memorable as his snubbed co-star Paul Dano. Alongside There Will Be Blood, Paul Dano absolutely should have received a Best Supporting Actor nomination as Sammy's father, as he overall has much more to do, with many terrific scenes throughout this movie being funny at times and devastating at others, and is the much more memorable performance of the two. Hirsch is good, but Dano is much, much better. I don't know what he did to piss off the Academy so much, and Quentin Tarantino, but Paul Dano deserves an Oscar nomination one day. Number 81. Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown. Easily the weakest of his four nominations, Norton does a good job portraying Bob Dylan's mentor Pete Seeger early in his career. Looking different than usual, Norton plays a charismatic and gentle man who cares about the people around him, especially Dylan, even after his career changes and he focuses more on a contemporary sound. Norton doesn't have any standout moments, but is decent in his role. But his nomination should have gone to Adam Pearson in his dual performance in A Different Man. Pearson tackling two different characters that are complete contrasts to one another, and excelling at both roles and showing how talented any actor can be no matter their differences, and a much more electric performance than Norton's as well. Number 80. Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami. Now, we're finally getting onto the good performances, ones that deserve their nomination. In his role as soul singer Sam Cooke, Odom Jr. delivers a very captivating performance. He has a lot of actors to compete with, especially considering the other legendary figures that are portrayed in the film. Although lacking standout scenes and being a tad forgettable, Odom Jr. delivers a very solid performance that stands out in the weak year that One Night in Miami premiered in. Number 79. Hong Chow, The Whale. The Whale is a very controversial film, but one that I thoroughly enjoy. One of my favorite Aronofsky films. Her role is very melodramatic and emotional, as she cares deeply about Charlie and wants him to get better, but enables his behaviors and holds him back as a result. Although it feels like Chow overacts at times, she is never bad or disappointing in her role, despite her character being a little shallow, deserving her nomination. The screenplay of the film and her character isn't developed to their highest potential, but Chow delivers a solid performance that can compete with her very competent co-stars. Number 78. Carey Mulligan, Maestro. The strongest part of Cooper's film, Mulligan delivers a terrific performance as Felicia Montealegre. You can really feel her change as the film progresses more than Cooper himself, and the devastating parts especially hit hard when you see Mulligan's emotions. Like I said before, the screenplay especially brings the film down, with Mulligan not getting enough scenes for her to stand out in, but if Maestro only got one Oscar nomination, it should have been for a lovely performance. But for the little she has to work with, Mulligan is showing she's one of the best and most consistent actresses of the decade as of now. Number 77. Felicity Jones, The Brutalist. Jones delivers a very sad and tragic performance as a handicapped Holocaust survivor. Introduced in the second part of the film, Jones delivers a haunting performance of a woman who suffered for years, with her health deteriorating more and more. While not one of the central characters of the story, Jones stands out in every scene she's in, and while it could be very easy to just feel bad for her, Jones is still a human with thoughts and feelings of her own, and she lets the men around her know that. Granted, the second half of The Brutalist is much weaker than the first and brings down the film because of that. But Jones, like many supporting performances, does the best with the limited time she is given, and you won't forget her anytime soon. Number 76. Frances McDormand, Nomadland. McDormand is the key part of Nomadland. Without her, the film cannot work. It is her journey and no one else's. And for what she does, McDormand does a decent job of carrying this Best Picture winner. Quiet and alone, McDormand traverses the US encountering fellow nomads along the way, dealing with her new situation in life and the death of her husband pretty decently. This is not Frances McDormand's best performance. Easily her worst Oscar win and the weakest in that year's lineup. But she gives a quiet and perspective performance that fits in when the movie was released in COVID, and something we could all relate to that time. But years later, doesn't hit quite the same after the fact. Number 75. Yuri Borisov, Honora. Borisov's character was introduced as just a random Russian goon, meant to look after the spoiled Vanya, and doesn't do much at first. But later on, as he gets to take care of Annie, we see a much more complex side of him. He's not just a regular henchman that has no say in anything, but has thoughts of his own, even if his opinion isn't valued. Even without saying the most, Borisov is able to portray a wide range of emotions that helps him stand out from stereotypes of henchman characters, along with the other supporting men in the cast as well. Even in the final scene, we see him grow and develop more and more as well. And even though this is Annie's story, he is easily one of the best parts of that film regardless of that. Number 74. Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction. Although a very comedic film at times, American Fiction deals with many serious topics about what it means to be a black person in America and what society overall expects from them. One of the characters who portrays this struggle the best is Sterling K. Brown's character Cliff, Monk's successful brother who recently just came out as gay. Just like Monk, Cliff has to deal with a lot with how people treat him and having to deal with the struggles he faces as a gay black man, especially from his mother, and shows how personal struggles can affect us as humans just as much as professional struggles. A very subtle and nuanced performance, Brown delivers one of his many terrific performances in this entertaining film, and showed outside of TV he can be an amazing film actor as well. Number 73. Jodie Foster, Nead. Foster's first acting nomination in decades, she returned to the Oscars as Diana Nead's best friend and coach, Bonnie Stoll. You know what to expect from this performance as Stoll pushes Nead to her limits in order for her to swim 110 miles in the rough ocean water. Despite that, Foster delivers another great performance as a coach who deeply cares for a friend and wants her to achieve her dreams after years of trying and failing, understanding Nead and whether to push her and when to stop as well. Even after years of on and off acting, Foster delivers a very good performance, and while it doesn't compete with some of her previous nominations, nevertheless it is still a very compelling and deserving nomination in the end. Number 72. Andrea Riseborough to Leslie. One of the most shocking Oscar nominations of all time, indie darling Andrea Riseborough delivered a very good performance as an alcoholic trying to redeem herself. When it comes to whether Riseborough deserves a nomination over people like Viola Davis, I believe she did. She portrays a once lucky lady who won the lottery that wanted it all, now being addicted to substances as a character you feel very bad for. But she continues to hurt herself so much that it's hard to see how she can change. But when given an opportunity, she changes back to her former self before the alcohol, trying her hardest to achieve her dream of opening a small restaurant. And by the end, she gets the happy ending we're all rooting for, surrounded by people who truly care about her. Although a very surprising nomination, it was still a very good one that checks off all of the boxes of what good acting is, and a movie you should watch if you haven't already. Number 71. Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown. Chalamet had a tough task of portraying one of the most iconic musicians of all time, and does a nearly flawless job of bringing Bob Dylan back to the screen. He's not the first actor to portray the singer, or even the first to get an Oscar nomination for portraying him, but he brings Dylan's laid-back persona brilliantly to the screen. When it comes to singing in concerts, Chalamet perfectly sings all of the classic Dylan songs, but Dylan is perhaps the easiest singer to imitate, so that isn't much of a flex. Although a little dull and boring at times, Chalamet shows he is one of the most talented actors of his generation, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this performance like some other people are. Number 70. Annette Bening, Nead. Bening portrays elderly swimmer Diana Nead, who wants to be the first person to swim without a shark tank from Cuba all the way to Florida. As a swimmer myself, Bening does a brilliant job of showcasing the struggles and hardships swimmers face, as he must train and train to swim longer and longer distances for hours at a time. something I personally appreciate as very few films portray that. Nia, the film is a very conventional sports film and biopic that doesn't surprise most of the time, but Betting's presence is gripping and captivating throughout, as you wonder if she'll be able to complete the long swim. Once again, not one of her absolute best nominations, but a good one nevertheless. Number 69. Ariana DeBose, West Side Story. DeBose portrays Anita in Steven Spielberg's adaptation of the stage musical of the same name. She gives the best performance of the film. Her singing is jaw-dropping and brings out the emotion of her character. Although the 1961 film and Rita Moreno's performance in the film was much better, DeBose is the highlight of Spielberg's musical, as someone coming from a Broadway background often is better than a classically trained actor. Although I don't think she should have won, and she's had one of the worst post-Oscar win film releases in recent memory, it's still a very good performance. Number 68. Olivia Colman, The Lost Daughter. A surprisingly weird performance, Colman plays the older Lida, a professor vacationing by herself who grows infatuated with some of the people she encounters on her vacation. Lida is a very odd person, something Colman does a good job bringing to the screen. A seemingly normal lady that as the film slowly progresses, you understand less and less. Always wondering more and more about her current relationships with her family and whether she is truly telling the truth or not. Although you don't understand her character, that's good in this case, as it adds more intrigue and mystery into what could have been a generic and forgettable film. Olivia Colman delivers a great performance in The Lost Daughter, and although it can't compete with her previous nominations like many previous nominees, it is a fun watch the whole way through. Number 67. Barry Keoghan, The Banshees of Inisherin. Keoghan portrays Dominic, a mentally handicapped young man who has an abusive police officer father. Like Kirk Lazarus said in Tropic Thunder, you can't portray a handicapped individual just as handicapped. You have to make them stand out somehow. And Keoghan does a good job of portraying a young and simple lost man. Keoghan stands out in every scene he's in as one of the few good-hearted people on the island, so his untimely demise really hits you when it happens. You really feel bad for him in the situation, feeling sort of like Butters, and therefore is a very likable character. Although he should have been in more scenes so we could have connected to his character more, Kieran is perfect as Dominic, with his ambiguous death leaving many questions even after the film is concluded. Number 66. Ajna Ellis Taylor, King Richard. Surprisingly, the title character doesn't even give the best performance. Ellis Taylor plays Richard's wife and Serena and Venus's mom Brandy, the more conventional parent not caught up in the wild world of tennis. She plays the more down-to-earth and realistic parent who often conflicts with Richard on what to do with their daughter's tennis careers, and how to balance their personal lives as well. Even though not the title character, Ellis Taylor shows more emotion than Smith, resulting in a very memorable performance in a decent movie, bringing it up a few notches. It still isn't one of the best performances, but it's still a solid and memorable one. Number 65. Cynthia Erivo, Wicked. Playing Elphaba, the woman who would become the Wicked Witch of the West, in this adaptation of the iconic musical, Erivo delivers a very fun and enjoyable performance. The first part of Wicked is much more lighthearted and comedic compared to the second part, but Erivo perfectly encapsulates a young Elphaba as he tries to adjust to this new world. The best part of Erivo's performance is definitely the singing, as the song in Wicked's first half are pretty spectacular, especially the fine gravity at the very end. Sure, it's not one of the most dramatic and emotional performances, but it's very enjoyable, especially in this lengthy movie. Erivo does a good job leading this film, showing how talented of an actress she can be. Number 64. Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things. Ruffalo's fourth nomination, he still isn't getting close to getting a win. But anyways, in Yorgos Lanthimos' adaptation of the 1992 novel, Ruffalo plays a spoiled and arrogant Duncan Wedderburn, an obnoxious, self-absorbed lawyer who kidnaps the lead Bella for himself. The funnest and most eccentric Ruffalo performance I've seen, playing a man who does everything for himself and doesn't care about a single soul around him. In such a stacked year, Ruffalo falls between the cracks as Willem Dafoe's performance in the same film is arguably more memorable and better. But Ruffalo is at his best in this film in the type of role he really plays. Hopefully one day he'll be closer to winning that trophy. Number 63. Jessie Buckley, The Lost Daughter. Playing a past, younger version of Olivia Colman's character, Buckley outshines this talented actress despite less screen time. Buckley as a younger Lita spends time with her family, and we get to see a varying amount of emotion from happiness, sadness, and anger. It's easier to connect with the younger leader than the older one, and Buckley plays a huge part in that, no offense to Coleman. Buckley is a very memorable part of The Lost Daughter that helps us stand out as a whole, that deserves to have some more screen time, but nevertheless is still a great performance to watch, with her probably winning an Oscar this year for Hamnet. Number 62, Denzel Washington, The Tragedy of Macbeth. A Match Made in Heaven, Washington portrays the titular king from the Shakespearean classic. No surprise, Washington does a terrific job of portraying Macbeth in Joel Coen's adaptation of the classic story, delivering the centuries old dialogue brilliantly and being the clear standout of the film. But at times, it does just feel like Washington playing Macbeth, if you know what I mean. He never truly feels like a different character like he does in films like Malcolm X or Training Day. While not one of his best nominations, it's still a great performance from this iconic actor. Number 61, Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer. In Christopher Nolan's massive historical epic, in this massive ensemble, Blunt plays Kitty Oppenheimer, the controversial wife of our lead character. Blunt delivers a career best performance as Oppenheimer's serious wife, and whatever scene she's in, she stands out. Despite the film's massive runtime, she, however, like many of the cast, never truly gets a chance to stand out, and sort of drowns in the sea of many Oscar-winning and nominated actors as well. Blunt is, however, one of the most memorable performances of the epic, and has the potential to return as a nominee if given the roles in coming years. Number 60, Jesse Plemons, The Power of the Dog. Despite being the weakest nominee of the film, Plemons solidified how talented of an actor he can be on the big screen. Playing George Burbank, the shy brother of Phil who falls in love and marries Rose, and now has to deal with the tumultuous relationship between his brother, wife, and stepson. Plemons acts as the glue between the characters, trying his best to bring the family closer to one another, but fails miserably at this task, and by the end of the film struggles to choose his new family side or his brother's. Plemons has been giving great performances for over a decade, and continues to do so this very year, so it's great to see him get a nomination for one of his more quiet and subtle performances. Number 59, Michelle Williams, The Fabelmans. Williams returned to the Oscars with her powerful performance as Sammy's loving and caring mother. Most of us have deep connections with our moms that can be very complicated at times, and that's exactly what Williams brings in this performance. Wanting the absolute best for her son and wanting him to achieve his goals of becoming a movie director, no matter how hard that can be. Williams delivers the best performance in the film and brings a wide variety of emotions that you would expect from an everyday person. A little over dramatic at times, her performance in The Fabelmans is a very solid one in the end, but it doesn't rank as one of the absolute best. Also, I don't know how she got into Best Actress, but this is very clearly a supporting performance. Number 58, Brian Tyree Henry, Causeway. A pretty forgotten film considering how recently it came out. Causeway is a return to form for Jennifer Lawrence in a moving drama about returning back to society. Despite being an Oscar-winning actress, Lawrence isn't even the best performer in the film. Instead, it's Henry as James. A mechanic has to deal with the physical and mental trauma from a car accident that he was in. Henry is a very charismatic and likable all throughout the film at every point, really feeling like someone you'd like to be friends with if you meet him in real life. His character is just as complex as the protagonist, as he too learns to deal with the loss of his leg and death of his cousin. The film may be a little basic at times, but these two performances, especially Henry's, are some of the most emotional characters I've seen in recent memory, and leave an impact on you long after watching the film. A very underrated performance, one I'm glad the Academy decided to nominate. Number 57, Adrian Brody, The Brutalist. Our latest Best Actor winner, and the longest Best Actor winning performance to date. For nearly 3 hours, Brody entertains the audience in this devastating drama as a Holocaust survivor who immigrates to America to become an architect. Many people wish to achieve the American dream when they come here, and if not you, your parents or parents before them. And Laszlo Toth begins his journey in America at a very low point in his life. Throughout the rest of the film, we see him rise up and try to accomplish his dreams and live the happiest life he can, no matter how hard it can be. Brody is perfect in the role and shows how good of a leading man he can be in movies. I don't know if this is just me though, but I feel like this performance is a little too similar to his role in The Pianist in a way. This performance being sort of a follow-up, it doesn't feel as fresh as it should be. It's still great work for Brody. He's lucky I didn't take points away for having the longest Oscar speech in history though. Number 56, Olivia Colman, The Father.
Just like her performance in The Lost Daughter, Coleman delivers a brilliant yet confusing role in The Father. Playing the middle-aged daughter of Anthony, Anne has to deal with her father's dementia throughout the film, especially as it deteriorates over time. Her character becomes much more interesting since we don't know what's really happening as Anthony's mental state deteriorates, but Coleman is just as good as ever every step of the way. Despite the film's short runtime, you get to understand Coleman's character very well and her future goals in her life. And even though her father can complicate things, she really loves him no matter what. Another great performance and nomination from the ever so talented Olivia Colman. Number 55, Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman. Sue Storm herself, Kirby plays a woman who has to deal with the loss of her own child and how to navigate all of that personal drama and complications that come with this. It is very tough to lose a child, and Kirby has to deal with that and so much more in her performance as Martha. But Kirby does a brilliant job of balancing all of these aspects into one character. She has to learn to deal with this traumatic event, along with deciding what to do for herself without listening to her husband and mom, as well, in order to move on and focus on the things that really matter to her. She goes from a recluse at the beginning to a happy woman by the very end, and no matter what happens her way, she stays true to herself no matter what. Kirby shows a wide range of emotions in acting in this drama, and is really good in the goal she was given. Number 54, Ariana Grande, Wicked. World renowned pop star. We already knew she was a phenomenal singer before Wicked was even announced. But how about her acting? Sure, she did some Nickelodeon shows, but could she do dramatic work as well? Well, it turns out yes, and so much more as well. As a young Linda, Grande is a very fun and bubbly character in the film that is a joy to everyone around her, and for most of the film is extremely charismatic and excels at every song she is supposed to sing. But by the end, you get to see her do some more dramatic and emotional acting, which she does an extremely good job at, something most wouldn't expect. She'll have many more opportunities to do this sort of thing in Wicked for good, but does stellar work in the first part. Lots of singers have transitioned to be great actors before, and Grande appears to be next in line. Number 53, Paul Rossi, Sound of Metal. Rossi plays Joe, an elderly man and former alcoholic who is going deaf and runs a shelter for people just like him. Rossi was a very unknown actor before this, only having small appearances in shows like Parks and Recreations, but is perfect as Ruben's guide through this difficult process for him and many people. Joe is a very caring man who wants to help other death addicts like himself get through this tough time, and is extremely supportive and like a mentor figure to Ruben, with Rossi's calm demeanor helping him out. Joe knows that people will struggle through these processes, but has everything in his ability to help them out no matter what. Rossi shows that no matter how old you are, you can still give a great performance no matter who you are. Number 52, Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Playing the titular singer, Davis plays a stubborn yet powerful voice who wants to stay true to her artistic integrity without selling out to white audiences. Although absent for many parts of the film, Davis is perfect as Ma Rainey in practically every way. Ma Rainey is a woman who knows what she wants and cares about the close people around her, and is willing to change anything that she doesn't see fit. Davis brings a lot of emotion in his dramatic songs. The only thing holding this performance back is that she doesn't do the singing herself. If she did, this would have been quite higher on this list. Davis is great in the film and deserved her nomination in this, even though the other lead in this film is able to steal the show just a slight bit from the title character. Number 51, Zoe Saldana, Amelia Perez. The highest you'll see anything Amelia Perez related on any list, except if it's something about it being the worst. Zoe Saldana is the standout of the whole film and quite easily the best thing about it. I know I'm going to get some backlash for this, as most people hate the film and everything about it, but Saldana is really great as lawyer Rita, who has to navigate this complex criminal world she was thrown into. Basically the lead of the film, and the most interesting character, Saldana plays one of the best characters to date in this weird, vibrant crime world full of song and dance in English and Spanish, even though she doesn't have the strongest singing voice. A worse actress would have made this bad film even worse, but Saldana does the best with what she's given and brings a pretty compelling character to screen, even though she's surrounded by so many terrible things. If this film would have been better, even slightly, their performance would have been much higher in this case.
Halfway done with the video, guys. This video took a long time to make, so if you're liking this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this in the future as we end off 2025. I'll have tons of more content like this in 2026, and hopefully I'm gonna see you then. But anyways, let's get back to the ranking.
Number 50, Penelope Cruz, Parallel Mothers. Bringing us into the top 50, Cruz plays one of the two mothers whose life becomes extremely complicated after finding out the truth about her daughter. Directed once again by Pedro Almodovar, Cruz plays an ordinary person similar to Vanessa Kirby, who after giving birth has to deal with the relationships involved with that, and does a spectacular job with the role she's given. Almodovar really understands Cruz, and gives the role perfect for her that only she could do, trying her best to deal with the situation she's in while figuring out what to do next. She doesn't have anything big or memorable, but she delivers a great performance like usual. Almodovar and Cruz are a perfect match together. Number 49. Maria Balakova, Borat's subsequent movie film. Probably the most shocking nomination in my opinion. Balakova portrays a Kazakh reporter's daughter. Borat's goal is to offer Tutar to Vice President at the time Mike Pence. And just how crazy and stupid that sounds, that's what makes his performance so amazing. Balakova is absolutely hilarious in this role, rivaling the established Cohen. No matter what unpredictable scenario happens, Balakova stays in character no matter what, and turns what could have been a generic character into a memorable standout, and the most welcome addition to this comedy. One of the best comedic performances in the last few years, so I'm glad Balakova received a nomination for this work. Number 48. Ray Fiennes, Conclave. His latest nomination in nearly 30 years, Fiennes plays Cardinal Lawrence, who is given the daunting task of helping to elect the next pope. A very subtle and nuanced performance, Fiennes portrays the cardinal as sort of a detective character in a noir film. He investigates everything that is going on in the Vatican, along with deciding who's the most worthy candidate, as complications emerge throughout. Good acting involves good reacting as well, which Fiennes does a tremendous job of doing. It's not a showy performance, but you still remember it nevertheless. Fiennes is phenomenal in every project he's in, no matter the genre, but even when given a quiet role like this, he excels at it like a true actor would. Number 47. Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer. Playing the main antagonist throughout Oppenheimer's life, Downey delivers his most transformative performance as Louis Strauss. People were wondering what Downey would do after he finished his role as Iron Man, so to see him playing a central role in Christopher Nolan's historical epic was awesome to see, and he delivers a career-best performance. Strauss is an incredibly hateful person who wishes nothing but the worst for Oppenheimer, and does everything in his power to make sure that happens. Downey captures his energy brilliantly, being hateful and spiteful all throughout, lacking any charisma or likability that he has as Tony Stark. I would have preferred him to be in more scenes, so he would have been more fleshed out, but an amazing performance that everyone seemed to enjoy. I don't know about everyone else, but I still kind of prefer Matt Damon's performance in this, but that's still besides the point. Number 46. Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple. Another musical performance. In the latest adaptation of Alice Walker's classic novel, Brooks plays the role of Sophia. Compared to many of the other female characters in the story, Sophia is a very strong and powerful woman, not afraid of the men around her, and Brooks' performance helps her stand out from the rest of the cast. She helps Sally understand who she is throughout the film, with Brooks' singing being very good as well. Even after being in prison, we see a very dark and gloomy character that no one expects, but slowly returns back into the figure she was at the beginning. Brooks is a great actress and helps elevate any project she's in, and a clear standout in the musical version of The Color Purple. Number 45. Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction. Perhaps the best performance that balances both drama and comedy equally, Wright received his first Oscar nomination for portraying struggling African-American writer Monk. Frustrated by seeing his stereotypical black work succeed while his doesn't, he creates the most stereotypical book imaginable, which turns out to be a massive success. Monk has to deal with a lot of personal problems in his literary world while dealing with the complex relationship he has with his mom, brother, and girlfriend after his sister dies, and Wright does an amazing job of combining these aspects while being humorous from time to time. This masterclass of the script elevates Wright so much, and makes this an extremely memorable performance. Even once you reach the end, Wright's performance continues to delight you up until the final scene. Number 44. Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. His final film role before his tragic death in 2020, Boseman steals the show as a member of Ma Rainey's band. Despite not being even the title character of the film, Boseman delivers a standout performance of the film as Levy, the overconfident trumpeter who clashes with Ma and the rest of the band. Levy doesn't change throughout the film though, instead continuing the same mistakes and growing further and further away from the rest of the band. Boseman played a very sympathetic and likable characters in every film before this, so in his final role he delivers his most transformative performance that showed how talented he was, no matter what project he was in. Many people thought he would have won the Best Actor trophy that night, and while I agree that putting the Best Actor award as the final award that night shouldn't have happened, it left people with a very sour taste in their mouths, Boseman personally wouldn't even be in my top 3 picks that night. He's great in this film, but this film is too short to fully explore him in my opinion. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. To this very day, you are missed by the whole world. Number 43, Bill Nighy, Living. The 2022 Best Actor lineup is easily the strongest lineup in this decade. It's hard to see what lineup in the future can beat it, but we finally get to its weakest nominee, a performance I still love though. In the remake of Akira Kurosawa's classic film Ikiru, Nighy plays Williams, a cold, elderly British man who, after being diagnosed with cancer, tries to make the best of his last few days. Williams is a very boring and serious man at the beginning, but very slowly he begins to change and be more open and kinder to the people around him. Nighy does a perfect job of showing how his emotions change. He grows to become a very likable and sympathetic man by the end, where he hopes someday he'll beat the cancer. The final scene solidifies this, him just swinging on a swing while the snow falls upon him. Many people view this as a legacy nomination, but this is a very deserving nomination that I'm very glad got in. Number 42, Lakeith Stanfield, Judas and the Black Messiah. Although a lead role nominated in Best Supporting Actor, Stanfield is a central character, an FBI agent infiltrating the Black Panther Party in order to help bring it down. Bill O'Neill could die on this mission, but Stanfield does a brilliant job as his double agent who has to bring down this powerful yet influential organization, especially as a black man. Stanfield does a brilliant job of pretending to be a Black Panther, yet you can sense his nervousness from time to time as his cover could be blown instantaneously. When outside of that setting though, he feels like a complete character, struggling to justify his actions that will hurt so many African Americans like him. Stanfield is brilliant in the role, but is the central character of the film and the lead. Jesse Plemons is more of a supportive character than him. Nevertheless, a great performance from the talented Stanfield. Number 41, Kirsten Dunst, The Power of the Dog. Dunst plays Rose, George's new wife and mother of Peter, who struggles to adapt to her new surroundings due to Phil's absolute intolerance of her. Rose's mental state continues to deteriorate as the film progresses due to Phil, and you feel extremely bad for her as she doesn't deserve any of this, and once she becomes an alcoholic, things begin to look rough for her. Dunst captures this character perfectly, showing how she changes time after time, and how differently she interacts with the other 3 central characters as well. Rose has the most emotions to deal with in the film, giving Dunst the hardest job, but she nails this. A very talented actress supported by the rest of the cast, Dunst delivers arguably her career best role in Campion's Western film, and a memorable one as well. Number 40, Brendan Gleeson, The Banshees of Inisherin. Gleeson plays a fiddler named Colm, who suddenly one day decides he doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell's character Padrick. Gleeson plays another character that you struggle to understand, because why wouldn't you want to be friends with Colin Farrell anymore? Why? As the film progresses, he grows increasingly and increasingly more unhinged, and Gleeson does a terrific job of portraying this friend turned enemy. He just wants to be left alone, but you never root for him, and want him to get back together with his friend even though it seems more and more unlikely, and he does a great job on the fiddle along with that. By the end, you understand Colm a little more even though he did some things very abruptly when he shouldn't, but you can't hate him. Gleeson helps bring Colm to life and takes what could have been an obnoxious and intolerable character and transforms him into a more sympathetic and relatable one, and how we want to be remembered once we die. Number 39, Guy Pearce, The Brutalist. Pearce plays the millionaire Harrison Lee Van Buren, a snobbish and loud man who hires Laszlo to work on his home as the two grow closer together. Pearce's largest role in recent memory, he plays a character like never before. Harrison is loud, confident, and very full of himself, always in charge of everything that's going on. His ego gets shattered though, and grows more and more bitter and angry as the lengthy film progresses. Pearce is truly spectacular in this role. He always feels above most of the rest of the cast, and he tries his best to keep up that facade as poor as it can be. He feels like Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Master at many points, proving how talented Pierce is as an actor if given the right role. The most memorable performance of the film, Pierce is the right person to play this self-absorbed man, and hopefully he can get more roles like this in the future to further show his immense talent. Number 38, Paul Mescal, After Sun. After Sun follows a young girl named Sophie, but the main person in her life and the standout character is her father, Calum. We follow Sophie and learn about her father, and Mescal captures this charismatic, mysterious, and deeply private man to perfection. Although a child, Sophie senses something wrong with her father, but doesn't know what. But we, the audience, understand that he struggles emotionally. That he tries to hide behind a smile, but the cracks slip. Mescal captures deeply emotional characters so well, with Aftersun being the prime example of this. He's seemingly ordinary and seems like a fun guy, but by the end he becomes such a tragic character that even though you don't know much about him, putting the pieces together makes it so sad. The deeply emotional ending really helps you connect with Calum's character and Sophia as well, but you feel so disconnected to him at the same time. Paul Mescal continues to excel at these type of roles as we see this year as well. And it's slowly becoming one of the biggest leading men and stars of this new age of Hollywood. Number 37, Sandra Huller, Anatomy of a Fall. And one of her two lead roles that year, and another sad performance. Huller plays a writer whose husband suddenly dies, and has to fight for her innocence after being seen as the prime suspect. Whether speaking in English or French, Huller delivers a very calm and subtle performance. Herself wondering what happened to her beloved husband, along with having to take care of her son and dog. Courtrooms and trials are very stressful environments, and we see her slowly deteriorate as the trial progresses, breaking down at the very end. The amazing screenplay takes simple ideas and characters and makes them very emotional and human, one that audiences can relate to, with Huller being terrific throughout. She carries the story and drama so much, and along with the zone of interest, established herself as an immensely talented actress to American audiences. Number 36, Stephanie Hsu, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. The much better of the two nominated supporting actress nominations for the film, Hsu plays Joy, the lesbian daughter of Evelyn, who she struggles to connect to, along with the other variants of her as well. Whether playing the evil murderous villain of the film or the troubled outsider daughter, Hsu shows a wide range of talents in acting that helps differentiate the variants from one another and to create quite interesting and compelling characters, something even established actors would struggle to do. She fits perfectly in this weird and wacky film, with her final emotional scene with her mother solidifying the themes of the film and being a very heartwarming inclusion. Joy is a central part of Everything Ever All at Once, so the actress who played her had an immense responsibility to uphold. But even as such a young actress, she does a superb job at this challenging role, being just as memorable as the other established actors and making this masterpiece better than it already was. Number 35, Kieran Culkin, A Real Pain. The co-lead of the film, Culkin plays David's eccentric cousin Benji as they travel to Poland to discover their roots. Culkin is very similar to Benji like he was in his role as Roman in Succession. While many people didn't like that and say he's playing himself, I actually really like this about the performance. Benji is a very fun person who wants to be liked by everyone, a sharp contrast to the shy and more reserved David. But deep down, he has a lot of mental health struggles, and in certain scenes, he just breaks down. We see and learn a lot about Benji. He's absent for perhaps only 3 scenes of the film, but he really helps you bring you into the world. We learn alongside him the history of Jewish people in Poland and how devastating the Nazis were to them in World War II, and can connect how Benji feels throughout, with the final scene focusing on him as he's alone with his thoughts. Culkin delivers both one of the funniest and emotional performances of all of last year. I love to see praised performances like these that aren't afraid to get fun or silly at times. Number 34, Cody Smith McPhee, The Power of the Dog. Smith McPhee plays Peter, a quiet and sensitive boy that doesn't fit into the macho Western world he's surrounded by. You feel and see how he's an outsider of society and will never be a cowboy, and Smith McPhee is the perfect choice for this role. His love for his mom and complex relationship and hatred of Phil is the driving force behind the whole film. As he slowly opens up, he makes sure things go back the way they used to be, before Phil began to torment his family. Smith McPhee does a tremendous job of showing how this bashful kid opens up and begins to do things for himself, whether good or not. and you're always by his side despite what he does to Phil at the end, as it's something most of us would do if given the chance. Spectacular work from the young actor, connecting this complicated film in a way that makes it completely human and emotional to the end. Number 33, Angela Bassett, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Most people would have never expected a Marvel film to receive an acting nomination, even though there are many examples when it should have happened. But Bassett is completely deserving of her portrayal as Queen Ramonda, a grieving mother in charge of Wakanda after her son's passing. Wakanda Forever is perhaps the most unique film in the MCU when it comes to its themes, not focusing on progressing the universe's story or exploring characters and plotlines from the comics, but instead dealing with themes of grief, death, and isolation when it comes to the in-film passing of T'Challa and the real-life passing of Chadwick Boseman, as I mentioned previously. Bassett is a talented actress in any role, and phenomenal in her previous performances, and delivers some of the most emotional parts of the whole film that hit especially harder due to the real-life circumstances surrounding it. A mother grieving their loss of their child is one of the most difficult and emotional things they can be put through, but Bassett goes above and beyond for this role. Superhero performances can be some of the most overlooked films when it comes to acting, but when given the opportunity, can pack more emotion than many of the prestige drama films as well. Number 32, Demi Moore, The Substance. Moore plays Elizabeth Sparkle, an aging celebrity whose show is axed by executives, but tries to return to that world by creating a younger version of herself. This is a deeply personal role to Moore, and it mirrors aspects of her own career as her career dried up before this film. But her career best work brought her back into the spotlight, unlike the monster she plays. Sparkle grows increasingly more angry and aggravated by the world around her, and becomes more of a disgusting creature on the inside and outside as well. Despite many horror elements, Moore's performances shows the lengths to which many humans use to chase the spotlight and be on top of the world, and how most fail at this. Although absent for large chunks of the film, you always remember her and wonder how she would react to her plans falling apart. But the ending solidifies the themes of the film about falling stars. Celebrities become irrelevant every day, but Moore once again came back to the public consciousness with this incredible performance. Number 31, Yoo Jung-yoon, Minari. A performance practically all in Korean, acclaimed Korean actress Yoo Jung-yoon became acclaimed in America for her Oscar-winning role as a silly but caring Korean grandmother. Her grandmother, Sunya, doesn't fit in at all with the 80s American society, and unlike the rest of the family, she doesn't try to fit in and just does what she wants. She has similar thoughts of what a grandmother should be, a kind and sweet-hearted old woman, but Sunya is more rebellious and free-spirited, acting like more of a teenager at times. Yoon portrays this wild grandmother the best she can, and creates an extremely memorable character that she would love to have as your grandmother as well. Not afraid to speak her mind or do what she wants, Yoon is perhaps the most memorable character in the film, and while looking at the lineup that year, you would expect her to be in 5th place. She won the award that night deservingly, showing how an actor, no matter what language they're speaking, can connect us no matter what. Number 30, Troy Kotsur, Coda. Speaking of language, Kotsur won an Oscar for a language not in English, but in no spoken language at all. Kotsur is the only performer on this list to not speak in this film, instead communicating all of his emotion through his body and sign language. Playing Frank Rossi, the deaf father of the lead Ruby, he struggles to run his fishing business and wants his daughter to join the business after school to help the family out, but knows she wants to do other things in her life. The disconnect between Ruby and her family is apparent everywhere you look, but Frank understands that fact and knows Ruby can do better, but struggles to let his daughter go. Kotsur without speaking can express more emotion than most can with their voice, and especially the final few scenes really pull at your heartstrings while feeling very melodramatic. Coda has a lot of haters, but Kotsur and his legendary wit will be remembered not only for their impact, but their performance as well. Number 29, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers. Reuniting with writer-director Alexander Payne, Giamatti delivers one of the most fascinating roles this decade as a seemingly boring and bland professor named Paul Hunham. At the beginning of the movie, he's just like one of your least favorite professors you've had. He's strict, unforgiving, and seemingly couldn't care less about the students. Once you spend more time with him and the other two main characters later on in the film, he grows to become a very sympathetic character that you're rooting for at the end. Paul has no personal life, no close people to him, and is instead focused on educating classics to his students. But slowly we see him open up more and more, with Giamatti excelling at turning an unlikable character into someone you really care for and wish for the best. Actors are meant to be likable, so for many it's hard to create pathetic characters that are easy to dislike. But Giamatti proves his talent by dialing down how eccentric he can be in many other roles to extremely down-to-earth professor. Although lacking lots of emotions, Paul learns to become himself at the very end, even though his future is uncertain, and as a result creates a performance universally acclaimed and one we all look back at with fond memories, despite despising many people like this in real life. Number 28. Carrie Condon, The Banshees of Inisherin. Condon plays Patrick's sister Siobhan. Although she doesn't play a major part in the story, you spend a lot of time understanding her and her relationship with Patrick and Dominic, and how she wishes for better things outside the island of Inisherin. Condon is brilliant as a sister with big dreams and aspirations. She doesn't fit in very well on the island, and although she cares for the people around her, she doesn't want much to do with the place she was born and raised in. Many people can relate to her struggles, as most wish to move to massive cities that seem like a better fit for them. Condon isn't overdramatic or brings the most emotion to the table, as isn't needed for this. Instead, you feel like people you know in real life. This nuanced performance is just as memorable as the other characters, with Condon standing out as an amazing actress alongside the men in the film. Number 27. Stephen Ewan, Minari. Although he's best known for his role in The Walking Dead and voice work in Invincible, Ewan's best performance is as a Korean father who moves his family to Arkansas in the 80s to start a farm. Jacob's dream is very unique, wishing to sell Korean produce grown in Arkansas and Texas, but you see him work his ass off to achieve the goal, working day and night to make his farm a success, while trying to balance time for his family as well. Yoon does a brilliant job of showcasing the blood, sweat, and tears he puts into his project, even though you doubt at many times if this plan will succeed. He never gives up and gives 100% at any given moment. Jacob faces many problems on his farm and at home, and even though things seem dire, he pushes through. Yoon proved with this film he's not just a TV actor, but just as effective in film as well, holding this film together the whole time through and shows he can take on a wide variety of roles. Also nice to see him balance between speaking English and Korean as well. A terrific lead performance that carries a truly excellent movie. Number 26. Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman. Although I may not be the biggest fan of the film, Mulligan is easily the best thing about the film, and carries it through its ups and downs. Mulligan plays Casey, a college dropout on a quest of revenge against predatory men for what they did to her best friend. Her role feels like a gender-swapped version of roles like Patrick Bateman and Tyler Durden, a sadistic woman who wants to hurt abusive men. Unlike many of those other roles, she's doing this for a good reason and doesn't feel like a psychopath. Instead, Mulligan brings a lot of emotion to this film, and she still feels very vulnerable at times. As the movie progresses and she opens up, we see Casey become more and more human and how she doesn't succeed all the time, with her untimely death at the end being very surprising and hitting hard even if you don't agree with what she was doing. But you still feel her presence to the very end, and the conclusion is a final victory for her, none of which would have been possible without Mulligan's phenomenal lead performance. She truly carries this interesting and vibrant film, and without her and with a much weaker actress, the entire film would crumble down because of that. Number 25. Sebastian Stan, The Apprentice. Although he's best known for his role as Bucky Barnes in the MCU, last year Stan really proved himself to be an extremely diverse and talented actor beyond that. For this role, he had the daunting task of portraying current US President Donald Trump during his rise to fame and power, but doesn't imitate his voice to do a comedic impression like we've seen many times before, instead portraying him as a real person. Trump is a surprisingly sympathetic person at the beginning of the film, shy and unsure of himself as he struggles to navigate the business world of New York City. By then, he becomes the power-hungry man we know him as today, doing atrocious things and becoming a villain. Although the two may not resemble each other perfectly, Stan humanizes him in a way rarely shown, establishing him as a person that does the things he does for a specific reason, and creates a complex character based on one of the most controversial figures in the whole world. Portraying Donald Trump is an excruciating task, but Stan excels at this role, and along with a different man made him one of the most talented actors working today. Number 24. Riz Ahmed, Sound of Metal. One of the most challenging roles on this list, Ahmed plays a metal drummer named Ruben, who begins to lose his hearing very rapidly and struggles with how his life will be once it's all gone. A musician losing their hearing is one of the worst fates imaginable, and being an addict makes matters harder as well. but Ahmed captures all of this pain and struggle onto the screen in a very relatable and human way. Just like the audience, Ruben has no idea what lies ahead in his future, but tries his best to adapt to his new circumstances. He isn't perfect, no one is, but he still tries to fight back and learn what it means to be a deaf individual. Whether speaking, signing, or drumming, Ahmed does terrific work throughout the whole film, taking a very small indie drama and making it one of the most unique films of the decade. Number 23, Andra Day, The United States vs. Billie Holiday. Although the film itself is quite bad, Day carries this barebone biopic on her back. In one of her very first film roles, she carries this film as a legendary jazz singer who had to fight against the racist US government all her life, and how her personal struggles brought her down so much. Day was a singer before she started acting, and therefore anytime Holiday sings is one of the absolute highlights of the whole film. The best singing of anyone on this list actually, and really helps showcase Holiday's talents as a performer. Holiday is the only developed character of the film and runs circles around everyone else, allowing Day to stand out above other talented actors the whole time, with a very emotional conclusion to her story helping out. Although the film is a very bland and safe biopic, Day takes what she is given and gives an extraordinary performance that helps elevate this otherwise disappointing film. Number 22, Benedict Cumberbatch, The Power of the Dog. The final nominee from this film, Cumberbatch plays the arrogant and abusive cowboy Phil Burbank. Around others, Phil is very demanding and controlling, wanting to be the center of attention, but in private is a very sensitive man who hides all of his feelings and emotions from everyone else. Cumberbatch delivers a wide range of emotions through the film, and very slowly begins to open up more near the end, but his actions from the beginning don't allow him to see the results of his efforts. You grow to care about the film a little more once you learn about his past and his sexuality, and although he's a pain to practically everyone around him, Cumberbatch's charisma helps you kind of root for the man across the film. Cumberbatch shows the different faces we show as humans, and how that can lead to devastating outcomes for us if we don't learn to deal with them. Number 21, Fernanda Torres, I'm Still Here. Nearly 3 decades after her mom was nominated in the same category, Torres plays Eunice Paiva, a woman fighting against the military dictatorship of Brazil in this thrilling and captivating film. You feel Paiva's fear about fighting against this massive evil government in many parts of the film, along with fearing for her kid's future in this country, but still fights back against all of this injustice because that's the right thing to do to help the people of Brazil. She faces many hardships and setbacks, but wants to show all of this corruption so her husband's murder wouldn't be in vain. Torres is outstanding as this powerful Brazilian woman and one of the best non-English performances I've ever seen, capturing a large variety of emotions in every scene she's in up until the very end. It would have been nice if she were in the final scene instead of her mom. I didn't even realize the difference when watching the film, but it works well as it is. Torres commands this tremendous Brazilian film, creating another masterpiece that will be regarded in the decades to come. Number 20, Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon is a very cold, dark, and sad film about a forgotten tragedy. A lot of the emotional weight comes from Gladstone's performance as Molly Burkhardt. She's in an incredibly tough position, married to one of the men who are helping to massacre her people. Gladstone hardly shows any emotion, just having a cold look on her face as she has to deal with the deaths of so many of her people, but she still tries to fight back nevertheless. It's devastating to never see her get the happy ending she deserves as little justice is served, and her performance in the film leaves a reminder how most tragedies are forgotten over time and how most never live to see justice prevail. Gladstone truly brings the devastation to the screen, being a constant reminder of how poorly ethnic minorities were treated in US history. I wouldn't consider this a lead role, but its impact leaves a massive impression far after the historical epic has concluded. Number 19, Andrew Garfield, Tick Tick Boom. Spider Man himself, Tick Tick Boom follows aspiring playwright Jonathan Larson as he works on trying to get one of his plays out to the world. Many of you watching are artists and can relate to the struggle of getting your work out of the general public and for it to become a success, myself included. This film does an incredible job of showing that struggle, with Garfield truly helping to sell this idea with his magnificent performance. Although it looks a little cheesy on the surface, Tick Tick Boom is a very compelling drama, with Garfield combining the musical, comedic, and dramatic aspects of the film brilliantly and really diving into the role of Jonathan Larson. He's a very relatable and sympathetic protagonist that you root for the whole way through, with amazing musical performances, and despite never seeing success in his life, seeing his impact on the world is incredible to see even if you don't personally enjoy it. Garfield is able to tackle any role in any genre, big or small, and I wouldn't be surprised if he would win a gold trophy sometime during his life. Number 18. Austin Butler, Elvis. Although a divisive film, like many other films on this list, Butler is perfect for the role as rock legend Elvis Presley. Since the film is told from his manager Tom Parker's perspective, this gives Butler's performance a lot more flavor and makes his biopic more interesting than it could be. The longer you watch Elvis, the more Butler feels like the rock legend. Sounds practically identical whether talking or singing, and Butler bringing the legend back to life. Like Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice, there are so many Elvis impersonators that it could be easy to fall into a trap of just doing an impression. But Butler makes the king of rock and roll feel like a real person that you can relate to, but not too relatable as he's always at a distance. I have a lot of problems with Elvis the movie, but Butler captures this man in a way we haven't seen before in the past, and deserves all of the praise for his wonderful performance. Number 17. Coleman Domingo, Sing Sing. Most people think of prisoners as tough and violent criminals, and the media often portrays them as that. But Sing Sing deconstructs these notions to show that prisoners are people too, especially with the lead performance from Domingo. Playing Divine G, he starts a theater program for the prisoners at Sing Sing Correctional Facility, helping many people who would never want to participate in this sort of thing out of prison devote themselves to the arts. Domingo is captivating whether he's acting within the film or not. Although the RTA program is meant to help prisoners, he continues to struggle as he didn't commit the crime he's incarcerated for, and wonders if he'll ever be able to leave this facility. The third act really shows Domingo's talents, on stage or off, as he devotes everything he has to show who he truly is on the inside, and is inspiring to watch all the way through. This decade, Domingo has delivered one banger performance after another, with Sing Sing being his magnus opus as of now. He's continuing to do good work, and like many others on this list, an Oscar win for him may be closer than most would be expecting. Number 16. Brendan Fraser, The Whale. One of the greatest acting comebacks of all time, Fraser's role as Charlie in The Whale, which won him the Best Actor Oscar, was one of the coolest and most heartwarming victories in a long time. Charlie is a severely overweight English professor who stays entirely in his apartment, who after many years tries to build back his relationship with his daughter. Quite a controversial film, especially with the way it tackles obesity, Fraser delivers a performance as never before. An extremely likable character that you wish could get better, even though eventually it feels like that will never be the case. The Whale is a very melodramatic film, but never feels like the actors are overacting, instead releasing all of the unfiltered emotions to the people around him. Fraser really dives into the role of Charlie, and you can hardly recognize him, but his likability helps out tremendously with his performance. Like many other Darren Aronofsky films, it takes a struggling person who tries and fails to achieve their goals and creates a great protagonist. And although this film isn't for everyone, I love Fraser's performance in this, and I'm so glad one of the most lovable actors of the past few decades is back in full swing. Number 15. Jessica Chastain, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. The last nominated performance I watched for this list, and last winning performance as well, Chastain plays televangelist Tammy Faye through her rise and fall in the Christian TV world with her husband Jim Baker. Chastain is almost recognizable as Faye under all of the wigs, makeup, and prosthetics, especially as the film progresses, but this really helps sell her performance as she really feels like the real Tammy Faye. She's a woman who wants to spread the message of Jesus to as many people as possible, and doesn't care about the money like many other people around her, creating the conflicts of the film. Many preachers and evangelists feel fake and phony, and use Jesus and God as a shield to hide behind their deceitful practices. But Faye loves each and every person around her, even if they are different, creating a loving person in a world full of snakes. I expected her performance to be Oscar baiting and a typical biopic performance, but although the film lacks substance at times, Chastain's performance really makes up for it, and you sure feel bad for her once things fall apart for her. This was a performance I had low expectations for, but one I really love and care for after watching it for the very first time. Number 14. Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon. De Niro has played villains and psychopaths in the past, but I don't think he's ever come closer to playing such an evil and despicable character before, especially since this was a real person in real life as well. He plays William King Hale, the man in charge of the Osage County murders that led to the death of hundreds of innocent Native Americans, all without a hint of remorse. De Niro perfectly portrays a cold and heartless mass murderer, willing to do anything in his power to accomplish his goals no matter whose lives he ruins, all while having a big smile out in public. And if you even dare to cross him, you're next on his list. Even in his 80s, De Niro washes the floor of most actors younger than him and shows how to portray a ruthless killer while outclassing everyone around him. One of his best performances to date, even around a half a decade of acting, De Niro proves that even years later, he's one of the best actors to ever step foot on this planet. Number 13. Jeremy Strong, The Apprentice. One of my personal favorite performances in recent memory, Strong portrays Roy Cohn, a lawyer who served as Donald Trump's mentor early on in his career. Kendall Roy was always my favorite character on Succession due to Strong's performance, and he brings that same skill and talent to the big screen in one of his first key performances in the film. Strong portrays Cohn as a very confident and arrogant businessman who influences Trump incredibly, but his traits are what leads to his eventual downfall. His non-caring attitude for the people around him influenced Trump so much that even by the end of his life dying of AIDS, his former trainee refused to help him. Even so, you can hardly feel any sympathy towards him. He proved the whole film how deceiving and cruel he can be to others around him. Strong really shows how successful businessmen really are and the tactics they use to reach that status, and how that can lead to their downfall as well. A really transformative role that hardly feels like Kendall Roy whatsoever, Strong gave a truly spectacular performance last year like no other, even outshining his former co-star as well. Number 12. Kristen Stewart, Spencer. Best known for a role in the Twilight franchise, I would never have expected Stewart to receive an Oscar nomination one day. She had the daunting task of playing one of the most beloved figures of all time, Princess Diana. But like her Twilight co-star, Robert Pattinson, proved herself to be an extraordinary actress and excels at this role of the troubled princess. Diana never really fit into the world of the royal family, and throughout the whole film you feel the disconnect between her and the family, along with her disconnect from the ordinary people of England as well, only feeling connected to her children throughout. Although only taking place for a few brief days, Stewart feels exactly like Diana, a very kind and caring woman who wants peace for everyone around her, but feels like an outcast to everyone around her as well. The dinner scene and hunting scene really sell this, with Stewart stealing every scene even when surrounded by dozens of talented actors. You feel incredibly bad for Diana, and considering her tragic death, even more so. But Stewart really shows how great of a person Diana really was, and the tragedy of how he lost her too soon. The happy scenes of the film showing why she was such a treasure to the world, with the help from a very talented actress as well. Number 11. Ryan Gosling, Barbie. I would never have expected to put a strictly comedic performance so high up on this list, but here we are. Gosling plays the main Ken in the Barbie world and helps Margot Robbie's Barbie out in the real world as well, and later establishes his own identity as well as leading the Kens to take over the female-driven world for a while. Easily the funniest role on this list, Gosling proves us that he can be funny at times before, but we've never seen him have so much fun like here. You know something interesting is going to happen when he's on screen. Despite the film being about women and their part in society, he's the standout and most memorable part of the film, with his song I'm Just Ken being one of the best songs of the film. On paper you wouldn't expect this role to be so good, just a funny role, but Gosling makes this one of the funniest, laugh out loud roles in any film, helping to propel Barbie to the successful film that it was. Although he's been in plenty of good drama films, Gosling's role as Ken has to be my favorite one, showing that being fun can be just as challenging to excel at as being dramatic. Number 10. Divine Joy Randolph, The Holdovers. Bringing us into the top 10, Randolph plays another one of the three central characters of the film, cafeteria manager Mary Lamb, who is dealing with the loss of her son in the Vietnam War. Although she tries her best to hide it, Mary has no one to turn to for dealing with the death of her son Curtis, an unnecessary death from an unnecessary war, and is all alone, which is why she decides to stay at school for Christmas break. Randolph is excellent playing a kind and fun woman, but someone who deep down can't process her emotions, which is what we see when she gets drunk at the Christmas party. Her fiancé died before they could get married, so Curtis was one of the only close people she had to her life. So the fact he got drafted and had no other choice but to go and die for absolutely no reason is tough to deal with. Randolph brings all of these wide range of emotions into holdovers, adding to the emotional weight of the film, even though her role is on the side, but is still impactful despite that fact. She learns how to deal with this more near the end, but will always leave a deep hole inside her heart, and Randolph knew exactly what to do when bringing this complex character onto the screen. Number 9. Cate Blanchett, Tar. The latest nomination from this immensely talented actress, Blanchett delivers one of her career best roles as acclaimed composer Lydia Tarr. Another artist, Tarr is a world-renowned composer, but her life slowly but surely begins to crumble as allegations of misconduct come out. We see Tar grow more and more unstable and more emotional as well until things really fall apart throughout the entire film, none of which would have been possible without Blanchett's remarkable performance as a composer. She commands the whole film and takes this terrific script and makes it a part of herself. Everything about Lydia Tarr, Blanchett makes it a part of herself, creating one of the most fleshed out fictional characters of all time in such a short runtime as well. And especially in the third act, we see some of her true colors come out. Physically, mentally, and emotionally, she struggles, but Blanchett shows why she's one of the greatest actresses of all time, but really showing the struggles not only she faces, but many real-life artists as well. Very few films truly rely on just one character like Tar, but Blanchett delivers a top-notch performance and one of the absolute best this decade, which will be impossible for most to beat in their lifetimes. Number 8. Mikey Madison, Honora. After some small minor and supporting roles before this, Madison blew all of her expectations out of the water with what we could expect from her with her tremendous performance as prostitute Annie. Annie is a street-smart lady who isn't afraid of any man, is willing to fight back physically even at a disadvantage, but like all of us, she too falls for the trap that is love. Annie is a complicated girl that falls into a Cinderella-like story, but one without a happy ending. Annie always having to fight for every little thing in her life. Madison is amazing as his modern-day underdog, someone many can relate to and feeling sort of like a modern-day Rocky in a way. As the film progresses, we see more and more of her true feelings on the matters around her and how she wants to be truly loved by someone, not just for her body. A vulnerable role that many would struggle to take, Madison makes Annie one of the most realistic characters in any film this past century. That although she has to be stubborn and unyielding, she wants to be loved by someone, something we can all relate to. Madison has a very bright future ahead of her because of this perfect performance from a true indie gem. Number 7. Colin Farrell, The Banshees of Inisherin. My favorite performance of the 2022 Best Actor lineup, and the final nominated role that didn't win an Oscar, Farrell plays a simple villager named Patrick, whose life goes to shit when his best friend doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. The best role of the film, Farrell is a very kind and likable man, perhaps the most charismatic character on this list. So when Colm continues to distance himself from Farrell, you genuinely feel terrible for him, as losing your best friend can be extremely tough. The more the situation and tension escalate, the more emotion Farrell shows as well, showing anger, sadness, and sheer frustration at the situation he's in. By the end of the film, he's completely alone. Everyone's seemingly in a different universe than him, and that's gut-wrenching to witness. Farrell has become one of my favorite actors with his work this past decade and from the past, but Banshees was the performance that showed Farrell was here to stay as one of the best leading men working right now. He shows how much a person can change throughout the course of the film. No matter how seemingly dull you can be, certain events can wake things up for you that you never would have expected. Patrick goes from a simple man to a much wiser one that has a deeper understanding of the world by the end, none of which would have happened without the immense talent of this Irishman. Man, all of this talk about Banshees makes me really want to rewatch it right now. Number 6. Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah. One of, if not the most memorizing role on this list, Kaluuya plays chairman of the Black Panther chapter in Chicago Fred Hampton. Anytime Kaluuya is on screen, his presence dominates absolutely everybody else, having all of the qualities any good leader should have and using that presence to recruit people to his cause. Anytime Hampton's delivering a speech, he grabs your attention no matter what you're doing and convinces you that whatever he's saying is the truth, and does such a good job convincing you of that. Kaluuya really makes you believe in Hampton's cause, so seeing the government try to destroy him every step of the way, even by infiltrating his organization and unjustly imprisoning him, shows just one example of how our government doesn't care equally about all of our citizens and focuses on itself first, everybody else second. His betrayal is especially disheartening even though you know it'll come, and his murder is one of the most impactful scenes of the film. Kaluuya shows you how to portray a real-life figure accurately without making them a character, showing all of their traits, good and bad, and the reason they are remembered in history as well. I can't think of any other actor who has the looks and talents to play Hampton. Kaluuya was pure perfection in this role. Even when playing a figure largely ignored by the general public, Kaluuya brings Hampton's life into the mainstream and solidified his impact on American culture, showing how parts of film can transcend the screen itself and show how impactful movies can be to people that see them. Number 5. Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer. The most daunting and difficult real-life figure to play, Murphy is absolute perfection as the titular scientist in Christopher Nolan's massive historical epic. Playing a real-life figure for over 3 hours is a difficult task for anyone. You have to convince the audience you are a different person and not just playing a character. But Murphy is breathtaking as Oppenheimer the whole way through, elevating this already tremendous film. Oppenheimer is a brilliant man with a mind that can change the world, but most around him use him to achieve their goals that result in massive destruction. The scientist unfortunately aiding in the creation of the deadliest man-made inventions imaginable. You see all of these emotions of fear and retaliation on Murphy's face for most of the film. He always feels exhausted and burnt out even when he has a smile on his face, and faces so much conflict you wonder at times why he won't just give up. But he doesn't, instead continuing to live his life, knowing till the day he dies that one day the entire world could end because of him not thinking of the bigger picture. Looking nearly identical to the man himself, Murphy in his finest role to date showcases how an actor needs to be extraordinarily talented to stand out, and remain the central figure in a film with hundreds of other characters, never for a moment forgetting about him, with his face expressing more emotion than any amount of words could. Oppenheimer the film never dives into the tropes of the genre, and despite its length, uses every minute of it to show the world how talented of an actor Murphy is, and how working with familiar collaborators can lead to more emotion and human roles than working with unfamiliar faces. This movie became one of the biggest films of the decade both critically and commercially, and a large chunk of that had to do with Murphy's revolutionary performance. Number 4. Michelle Yeoh, Everything Everywhere All at Once. At first, Yeoh plays a seemingly ordinary mother and wife whose laundromat business is being audited by the IRS. By the end, delivers one of the most unique and interesting performances of all time. Yeoh had previously shown her talents in films prior to this, but as Evelyn Kwan Wang, she not only leads one of the most unique films of all time, but created an iconic character that stands out in today's media landscape. Evelyn struggles with her rebellious daughter, dissatisfied husband, and traditional father coming together, with an audit from the IRS adding enormous stress. But for her now in charge of saving the whole universe adds so much more drama and stress to her life that the average person would find impossible to deal with. As Evelyn, she finds her inner strength and with the help of the other struggling people around her, fights back against this evil universe, no matter how stupid the film seems at times. Yeoh brings a sense of normality that holds the whole film together. Most people, male or female, would instantly turn down such an odd role, but Yeoh took it and it was a part of the most acclaimed film that year. A role so interesting and complicated that would be near impossible to put into words. Yeoh's performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once is one you just have to see for yourself. Something so unique that I think it would be impossible to compare this to any other acting feat I've seen. Number 3. Emma Stone, Poor Things. Stone had previously won a Best Actress trophy for La La Land, but somehow she blew that win out of the water with this win as a woman brought back to life. Another weird and brilliant win, Stone's perfection as Bella Baxter, showing an adult woman relearning everything, but being compelling the whole way through. You can see the clear shifts in Bella once she goes from learning how to walk, talk, and eat, maturing from a childlike mindset to an adult, to finally gaining the wisdom she wants from this world. She turns what could have been a monster to a relatable human with thoughts and feelings of their own. Carrying this gorgeous film on her back, Bella Baxter is an incredibly complex character with a tumultuous past. And although the film is very surreal and abstract in tone at times, Bella is someone you grow to care deeply about and wish her the best against the cruel society she faces. Another fascinating role, difficult to speak about, Stone is proving to be one of the best actresses this century that never misses, embracing creative risks because she knows she is able to tackle any challenge thrown at her. Another phenomenal win, and the best female performance I've seen this decade, along with one of the best of the past few decades as well. Number 2. Kihui Kwan, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Kwan nearly quit acting entirely, retiring from this role for decades after struggling to find work, but the Daniels gave him a chance with their wacky film. He had the opportunity to jump back in the game. The result is one of the greatest and most interesting supporting roles of all time. Kwan playing Evelyn's kind and lighthearted husband Waymond and the other variants of him, each one being fascinating in their own right, with the result being another complex role that Kwan excels at and showing why audiences fell in love with him in the 80s. Each Waymond variant feels so different from one another, but is connected by Kwan's terrific acting. Him tackling dozens of different moods and personalities efficiently, and never leaving the audience confused about which version they're seeing, and steals the show more than anyone in the cast. He's one of the most likable characters in recent memory, using positivity to fight back against all of the negativity we see in today's society that really hits close to home. Just remembering him and Everything Everywhere All at Once leaves a huge smile on my face, as although at the beginning of the film he doesn't seem too special, Kwan steals your heart by the end. Him winning the Oscar and finally getting the acting roles he deserved was so emotional to see, as it shows that anyone can achieve the highest levels of success if given the right opportunities. And seeing such a kind person like Kwan getting all of this recognition shows that the world can be a pretty good place at times. Waymond Wong is one of the funniest, kindest, and caring film characters this past century, and none of this would have been possible without Kwan's landmark performance. I knew this performance would be number one the moment I decided to make this ranking. Somehow, with so many generational performances in the past, and one of the best ones in the 1990s, he was able to surpass us with one of the best acting feats of all time, solidifying him as one of the greatest actors of all time. Enough yapping from me. Many of you know what's coming next. Number 1. Anthony Hopkins, the father. A seemingly simple role on the surface, Hopkins plays an elderly man named, well, Anthony, whose life falls apart once his dementia begins to affect his mind. A performance that brings you to tears by the end, Hopkins uses every minute of screen time to create a lovable and fun old British man who cares very much about his daughter, but is confused by everything around him as his mind deteriorates. The film does a perfect job of putting you in Anthony's perspective. You feel what it's like to have dementia as nothing seems to make sense, and you feel Anthony's pain all through this film. Hopkins brings more emotion than ever before, being extremely vulnerable as he begins to feel lost and having no sense of what's real or fake. The final scene really sells his performance. Anthony just breaking down and crying for his mom. Hopkins selling this performance so well that it doesn't even feel like acting. An astonishing film led by one of the great actors of our time, it's hard not to see why this is such an acclaimed performance, as this performance has everything that shows what good acting is. Even at such an old age, Hopkins obliterates all of his competition with one of the most vulnerable roles on film, highlighting the struggles people face as they age and showing why they can behave the way they do. No matter how young you are, aging is a process we will all be affected by someday, a fact that we have to accept in order to live our lives to the fullest. Anthony Hopkins delivers a once-in-a-lifetime performance as this regular and ordinary man, and I highly doubt that there will be any other performance from any other actor or actress, old or young, that will be able to surpass this absolutely legendary masterclass of a performance.
Those are my rankings of all 100 acting nominations from the Oscars of the 2020s as of now. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as it's taken me over a month to craft this. Consider liking and subscribing for future content like this, and leave your thoughts and rankings in the comments below. I'd like to hear your opinion as well. Anyways, I'm going to go back to playing Death Stranding, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye!